The empty box secret, the Japanese way of living. Have you ever wondered why Japanese living spaces feel so calm, not empty, but quietly complete? A calm that doesn't come from having nothing, but from the way everything is placed with intention. In a culture where silence carries more weight than noise, and where empty space is held with the same reverence as what fills it, Japanese minimalism is not just a lifestyle, it's a way of being. We live in an era that constantly tells us to have more, do more, own more. But the more we accumulate, the more we often feel something is missing. We chase efficiency, we collect, we consume, and yet a quiet sense of disconnection lingers. So the question becomes, is there another way to live one that is quieter, more deliberate, more grounded in meaning? Perhaps the answer lies in Japanese minimalism, but not in the way you might think. You see, many modern interpretations of minimalism, especially in the West, often stop at aesthetics, clear surfaces, empty shelves, neutral tones. But in Japanese culture, minimalism runs much deeper. It's not just about removing what you don't need, it's about creating space in your home, in your mind, and in your life for what truly matters. A tidy room is only the surface. Beneath it lies centuries of philosophy shaped by mindfulness, balance, and intention. And within that quiet philosophy are certain unwritten rules, subtle but powerful principles that the Japanese live by each day. These rules aren't loud or obvious, but they're what make Japanese spaces feel so deeply peaceful, so thoughtfully human. In this video, I want to take you into one of the most powerful, yet often overlooked of those principles, something that has quietly shaped the flow and harmony of countless Japanese homes, and that may hold the key to a simpler, more intentional way of living: the empty box secret. It may sound simple, a single box, but inside it lies a philosophy deep enough to transform not just your space, but your relationship with everything you bring into your life. Let's begin that journey with one empty box. 1. The empty box ritual. There's a small box, simple, unassuming, resting quietly in a hallway corner you pass by each day. It doesn't glow, doesn't make a sound, and doesn't serve any obvious function. And yet, its silent presence holds the peace of your entire living space, and perhaps the peace of your inner world, too. It's called a nan demobakasu, which loosely translates to anything box. Not a time-honored ritual from ancient Japanese texts, but a modern rhythm of life distilled from centuries of minimalism and mindfulness. It's not tied to any specific person, but it echoes the spirit of danshari, the practice of refusing, releasing, and separating. It whispers the quiet wisdom of the KonMari method: keep only what sparks joy. But unlike those approaches, this box doesn't ask you to make a decision right away. Because sometimes, what exhausts you isn't the act of tidying, it's the pressure of deciding. This box exists to give you a pause. You don't need to know right now whether that old sweater still belongs in your life. You only need to know that today, you don't want it draped over the back of a chair or abandoned on the dinner table. You place it in the box as if to say, I'll return to you later, when my mind is clear enough to truly listen to what you're saying. It's a ritual of conscious delay, a form of ma, the Japanese concept of space and pause. Ma is not emptiness, it's an invitation to breathe, to slow down, to see more clearly. Where does the box go? Near the entrance, where you return home each day. In a hallway, where things quietly shift. In traditional Japanese homes, there's a space called engawa, the veranda that bridges inside and outside. It's not just a physical threshold, but a transitional stillness between public and private realms. The box, in its own quiet way, plays a similar role, a soft boundary between what stays and what may go. Each time you hesitate, instead of letting the item drift across random surfaces, you place it in the box, a half-read book, a gift you neither love nor dislike, a gadget you haven't used in ages, but might need someday. These objects no longer sprawl across your home, whispering indecision. Inside the box, they settle like unfinished thoughts, resting until you're ready to revisit them. And then, one day, when your heart feels a bit lighter, you open the lid. You place your hands on each item and gently ask, does this still belong in my life today? No forcing, no rush, just honesty. In Zen philosophy, People create stone gardens not to plant anything, but to gaze into the stillness. Because sometimes, it's the emptiness that brings clarity. The anything box works the same way. It's not a storage space, it's a space to hold the pause. You might choose a simple wooden box, or a bamboo one, whatever feels intentional to you. It doesn't have to be large. It doesn't need to be precious. What matters is that it blends into your home like a quietly understanding friend, unobtrusive, but always ready to receive. Over time, you'll begin to notice. By postponing with awareness, you're creating a deeper rhythm in your life. You're no longer rushing to categorize everything. You're no longer afraid of uncertainty. You're learning to live with the unresolved without letting it take over your space. Your outer space is a reflection of your inner stillness. And sometimes, an empty box might just be the most important thing you own. 2. Weekly curation. One thing longtime minimalists often realize is that the calm of a space doesn't come from a single deep clean. It comes from steady, gentle movement, consistently maintained. Like the way nature changes seasons, not through grand gestures, but through falling leaves, shifting winds, and perfectly timed drops of dew. Curating the anything box each week works the same way. It's not dramatic, not complicated, but it's a gentle rhythm that keeps your living space from slipping into chaos. When your box begins to hold those in-between items, the ones not quite ready to stay or go there, comes a moment when you're called to return to it. Not because you're forced to choose, but because you want to understand yourself more clearly. Sitting down once a week to revisit what you've placed inside that box is how you begin turning reflection into action and feeling into decision. In Japan, there's a quiet ritual known as Getsuyu no Kiyom, a kind of spiritual clearing to welcome Monday with freshness. Mondays ask for lightness, which makes Sunday evenings the perfect moment to reconnect with your box. Or maybe you prefer Friday afternoons, as a soft close to the week that's just passed, echoing the spirit of Osuji, Japan's year-end deep cleaning tradition, now scaled down to a weekly moment of clarity. There's nothing complicated about this weekly curation. You open the lid, and with each object inside, you ask yourself, does this still serve my life today? If the answer is yes, the item returns to its rightful place. If the answer is no, you thank it for what it once offered, and you release it to be passed on, shared, or recycled. And if you're still unsure, maybe it stays in the box for another round. That's okay too. At this point, you're no longer evaluating objects just with logic, but with the quiet awareness of the present. If it no longer serves the heart, it must go. This isn't about throwing things away, it's about returning your space to its natural clarity. As you make this a weekly habit, the box evolves. It's no longer just a place to delay decisions, it becomes a part of your rhythm, a mirror of your awareness. You start to notice more deeply, the things that keep reappearing, the items you hesitate over again and again, the objects you've finally outgrown. And in this quiet noticing, you begin to see the patterns of attachment, of lack, of impulse, or of lingering sentiment you hadn't yet resolved. Just like a monk carries an empty alms bowl open only to what is truly needed, you begin using your box like a meditative container for your living space. Not to hold things, but to select. Not to accumulate, but to see clearly. Over time, each touch of the box becomes a small act of cleansing, not just for your home, but for your inner life. You stop viewing tidying as a chore. It becomes a form of quiet art, a beauty born from conscious action. Minimalist living isn't about having less, it's about living with what's right. And you can't know what's right if you don't pause regularly to ask yourself. This week, maybe you'll let go of something. Next week, you might decide to keep what you once thought you'd give away. But whether it's letting go or holding on, the simple act of sitting with your box each week becomes a powerful expression of love for your space and for your own evolving self. 3. Embracing Ma, the power of empty space. At the heart of the empty box secret lies a quiet yet powerful concept, one that doesn't manifest through objects, but through stillness. In Japanese, it's called Ma, a word that's hard to translate, but deeply felt by anyone who has ever slowed down enough to truly live. Ma is the pause between musical notes, the blank space in a sumi-e painting, the open courtyard in a Zen garden, or the engawa, the veranda that bridges the interior and exterior of a Japanese home. It's not what's there that defines Ma, it's what's not there, and the meaning that absence gives. The box doesn't ask anything of you. That's exactly what makes it a fragment of Ma in your life. It's a deliberate emptiness, a space where you can place things you haven't fully named, questions you haven't yet answered. It doesn't pressure you to decide. It simply invites, set it down here, then return when you're ready to see more clearly. And in that act of postponing with awareness, there's unexpected healing. Architect Arata Isozaki once described Ma as the void that creates harmony. Our living spaces, then, are not just made up of walls, furniture, or light, but of the intervals between those things. In conversation, too, meaning often falls into the silences. With the empty box, you're creating a space where keeping and letting go can coexist, a quiet zone where even uncertainty is accepted as a natural part of life. It's fascinating that modern neuroscience is beginning to touch what ancient wisdom has long known. When our surroundings are cluttered with too much visual input, the brain works overtime, leading to stress and mental fatigue. In contrast, a clean corner or a clear surface offers a kind of sensory refuge. The mind can breathe, attention can rest. Biologically speaking, Ma is a neurological pause. This is why the box doesn't just serve as a tool to contain clutter. It becomes a kind of sensory sanctuary, where scattered thoughts and objects are held gently, allowing the rest of the space to remain clear. Every time you place something into it, you're not just organizing your home, you're also clearing a path for clarity to enter. Zen teaches that the less you have, the more you see. The simpler something is, the deeper it reaches. Like a rock garden made of nothing but stones and sand, the emptiness is what calls you to stop and reflect. There's a simple Zen proverb that says, "Only when the cup is empty can it be filled." It's not about the drink, it's about the state of mind. When you release something, you create space for something else to enter. The box, then, is more than storage. It's a symbol of readiness. Readiness to let go, readiness to shift, readiness to welcome the new when the time comes. In Japanese aesthetics, there's a term called yohaku no bai, the beauty of empty space. It's not a flashy beauty. It's the quiet elegance of restraint, of leaving something unsaid, of not using every inch. When you look at an empty box, you're not just seeing what's missing, you're seeing potential. What hasn't appeared yet, but might. What isn't fixed, but quietly invites. And that, at its core, is what Ma really means. The empty box becomes a place of pause, not to delay, but to reset. You don't have to fill every drawer, every shelf. Sometimes, it's the space between two objects that reveals you to yourself most clearly. Your outer space is a reflection of your inner stillness. And when you learn to honor that stillness, you're not just rearranging your home, you're quietly transforming your way of living. 4. Benefits of the empty box secret. There's something quietly strange about looking at an empty box. On one hand, it reminds you of all the things left unresolved, the items you're still unsure whether to keep or let go. But on the other hand, it brings a subtle relief, as if all the lingering thoughts inside your mind have finally found a place to rest. And that, in many ways, is the deepest gift of the empty box. It doesn't just change your space, it reshapes the way you relate to your own mind. Modern science has offered plenty of research on how clutter negatively affects our psychology. When your eyes are flooded with too many objects at once, the visual cortex gets overwhelmed, leading to stress and fatigue. The amygdala, your brain's fear and anxiety center, gets activated, cortisol levels rise, and your sense of calm erodes. Studies from UCLA have shown that more cluttered homes are directly linked to higher stress hormones, especially in women. But when you gather all that indecision and place it in a single box, you draw a boundary around the chaos. And just like that, you start to feel a sense of control and calm. It's like gently closing a door, not to ignore what's outside, but to create a quieter space inside. When your attention is no longer pulled in every direction, your focus becomes sharper. You start to sense what really matters. The box, in its quiet way, becomes a cognitive inbox, a place for all the not yet thoughts to wait, so they no longer interrupt what needs your presence now. Minimalism, after all, isn't just about emptiness, it's about clarity. Another quiet benefit of the box is that it frees you from the pressure to decide immediately. In a world that constantly demands choices, keep or toss, use or discard, mental exhaustion builds fast. But when you allow yourself to delay within structure, to postpone with awareness, you protect your inner energy. The decisions aren't abandoned, they're simply waiting for a better moment. And through the weekly rhythm of returning to the box, you learn to complete those decisions gently, without strain. Beneath the surface of a practical habit, the box becomes a space for practicing release. Every time you touch an item inside, you start to recognize what you truly value and what's just the shell of a past emotion. Over time, this repetition doesn't just tidy your home, it brightens your spirit. Ownership begins to shift into intentional selection. And in the spirit of Buddhism, this is the first step of non-attachment, learning how to live without clinging to what may no longer belong. You'll also notice that every time you consider bringing something new into your life, a quiet question surfaces. Will this end up in the box? What seems like a simple question becomes a powerful filter for your choices. When you pause before allowing an object into your space, you're practicing gratitude, keeping only what truly fits. And when you thank something before letting it go, even silently, you transform the act of decluttering into a ritual of appreciation. The empty box, then, is no longer just an object. It becomes a conscious pause in a world of unconscious consumption, a quiet act of rebellion against the noise of more. It's small, but it raises a large question. What truly nourishes my inner life? As the box becomes a steady presence in your home, you'll begin to notice its ripple effects. It's not just about tidier rooms, it's about lighter emotions. It's not just sharper focus, but a deeper sense of sufficiency that doesn't depend on what you own. And slowly, you'll realize, if you can manage one small box with clarity and care, you can also manage bigger, messier parts of your life, your closet, your thoughts, even your relationships. A small habit, when practiced with stillness and awareness, becomes the doorway to true freedom. And that empty box, it's not a method, it's a space you create to come home to yourself. Now that we've journeyed through the entire practice of the empty box secret, I want to invite you to pause and reflect. Out of everything we explored, from the gentle ritual, the weekly rhythm, to the quiet beauty of empty space, which part truly resonated with you? Which one felt like it touched something personal, something real within you? What felt most applicable to your current life? And which insight made you think, if I begin here, this could truly shift something in my space, in my mind, maybe even in how I carry myself? I understand that changing habits or simplifying your lifestyle isn't always easy. But Japanese minimalism isn't about radical change. It's more like a whisper, a quiet breath gently inviting you to start small, maybe with a single object, a simple box, a moment of noticing. You don't need to change your whole life in a day. Just create one clear space enough for you to breathe. So here's my invitation. Share in the comments which part of this practice you'll begin with today. Whether it's the ritual of the box, the weekly check-in, or simply learning to appreciate space, you can start wherever you are. Minimalism isn't about having less. It's about living more deeply, more clearly, more presently. And I'm here to walk this path with you. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That way, you won't miss any upcoming content, and you'll help me continue sharing small but powerful reflections that might support someone else too. I truly hope these lessons from the empty box create something beautiful in your life, something quiet but deep enough for you to feel. I'll see you in the next video.